InShalla and Ashe. Welcome to today's daily snippet. I am your host, as always, Tonya D, for now anyway. Holistic Sha'medium and subtle energetic surgeon. Today is October 14th, Thursday. And honestly, it's a little bit gloomy and raining in my village. They're starting to tear down my backyard a little bit, so my house is rattling. So if you hear some noises, I'm not having an earthquake. But how is your village? Not to worry there. The future is opening up. Benevolence is on the horizon. And sometimes the culprit is the racket in our head. It's far from giving us a pep talk and more into giving us a stress attack. Like a cauldron of boiling or bubbling doubts and worry, kind of holding us back or restraining us from living the life that we're actually meant to live. My musing meditation will be ready to get out the gate very soon, so be sure to check your inbox for that. As we raise our emotional frequency to an elevated sense of renewed vibration. So it's like wisdom, balance, and inner strength coagulate together to eliminate all of the negative energy. So it's really a great day to actually ground into the earth, into a stone, especially if you are like a mineral or a metal person. It's also a great day to utilize meditation as well, while also enhancing our physical and our spiritual immune systems. Stones are to our bones, right? It's our ancestors. So we have this other elemental day. It's full of earth, the four corners, or at least three of the four corners, the northeast, the southwest, and also the northwest as well. So all of this earth is considered the four graves in Chinese astrology. So it's the stomach and it's the spleen. So it's like we're having issues digesting. And water is the element needed, and wood as well, to break up that earth energy. So it's almost like we're afraid to move forward and we're afraid to really kind of move anywhere. We're at a standstill. There's no flow. Water will soften or moisten up the earth to bring some relief to our dried out little wood energy there. It's like a barren tree, or actually it's similar to a cactus even. So there's hidden elements in the stems, in the storage there, but water is the most needed element here. Our day master is very weak, so life might feel as if it's really at this standstill. There's no growth. It's dissipating. And in our relationship corner, because we're still in the last phases of Libra, we're elevating and expanding our perspectives on relationships. Out into the corridor, into the future, our auric field. Maybe we're cleaning up our auric field in the relationships, right? The patterns. So our inner dialogue of the story of relationships, that's what Libra is. So it's like getting that intuitive hit that sometimes literally is just like a bird pooping on our head. So it's like, what aspects do you want to explore in your relationships? You might have woke up to otherworldly dreamscape energy. I kind of went to bed early and then woke up in the middle of the night, and I upgraded some things on my What's Up Tonya D page. Be sure to check those out. I added my courses and also my podcast, so I'm super excited about that. But the energy was one that was like not embodied. It's like still floating out of body. We're optimistic about the future. However, our soul might be seeking freedom from the world that we're living in. Maybe you feel a little bored. You're not so excited with life. In the container, you're feeling like held in or restricted, kind of bound up. So if you feel anything less than having a love romance with yourself, follow the threads in your feelings and see where those emotional knots are. Not only do we need to clear the space for our emotional foundation, but we also need the waters to be clean and also to have that connectivity, that information coming in. So our hearts want to do what our inner child wants to do. So they're in sync. So the older you, maybe you connect with the younger you and sync those together and actually have some fun. So utilize your own creative outlet, whatever that is, writing poetry, painting, something that you love to do that's just, it's both fun, but it's also loving and nurturing as well. Could be like baking cookies with the kiddos or taking your fur baby for a walk in a rainstorm. building a fire in your house, in the fireplace, something warming. So when we collaborate with the fun and the sun, even though it might be raining outside and drizzly, we're going to experience a day full of excitement, bringing in something that might be interesting or at the very least curious. So go out and explore your relationship to life. And I talk about our relationship to life in the balance of being, or I should say I explore it in there. And also, in otherworldly news, like I said, I've added my podcast to What's Up Tonya D, my Facebook page, and also all of these programs, actually. I'm still going to recalibrate them and do some twisting and turning, tweaking them as well. But I'm kind of waiting a little bit for Mercury to move on forward. But the energy of today is one of bringing in the excitement of somebody new, maybe otherworldly, maybe someone different. So kind of interview your inner self, a kind of day for opening the door, the corridor to a higher learning perspective. So things aren't always as they seem, especially in the unseen, in those intangible ways. It's like putting a spin on it, right? So our feelings are literally our beacon. They're our sound system that waves across time and space. So kind of pay attention to your own personal sound system, that orchestra of emotions, and feel if your heart lights up, if it truly becomes a star. So it's an amazing day to open that door, leave it open, and explore all the unique and otherworldly relating options that kind of come through. So is there a desire in your heart that really wants to come true, a wish that's delicious, or even at the very least, it wants to become alive and it wants to become vibrant? So really allow your imagination to get in the flow, get a little otherworldly, even bring in a wereme, the fierce, authentic you, this fierce energy that's just magical. So you might have to really kind of rewrite your soul's narrative, shifting a belief that's no longer holding space, where the threads are fading. Beliefs are really getting an upcycle. Anything that feels or that is outdated is fading away or cascading away, flowing down the river, if you will. So really stay curious, question everything, explore the future, because today can be like a life-changing day just by simple shifts. A person could come into your life, you meet them at the coffee shop, not on purpose, and they add a new chapter or a twist to your life story. So you might be going, huh? And kind of looking and have more questions, but you don't have any answers. So it's going to get super elevated and a little more exciting, to the point that the shifts that are happening are so exciting and the changes are so great that you don't mind your matter, the balance of being, of all the things, the mind, our attitude, it's the data center of things coming in. So with our Vision Center online, be sure to take a breath and absolutely take a pause. Feel into your imagination station and see if your heart believes the vision to be true. Just allowing your visual perspective to be more otherworldly. Sometimes we get these intuitive hits that are somewhat confusing at the very least, because we have this program of beliefs that aren't in line with the narrative. It's like what you hear and what you see aren't making any sense. So it's like where this story under the rug, or more importantly, why is it under the rug? So with our intuition channel open to receive some new juice, and our feelings are ready to open to a new emotion, the juicy kind, you could bring in ancient wisdom, the knowledge of the seers, the sages, or the shamans, just seeing the world with an entirely new future story outside of us, something with a totally different narrative. Now, of course, the animal of the day, I'm going with the goat. I don't think I've done the goat. Actually, I don't think I have. I probably might have done the sheep, but the goat, the greatest of all time. So I found this little goat here. There he is. So the goat, its message is, it's now time to separate ourselves from the crowd and follow an independent direction. This time, your own path is the easiest and the best route for you, the greatest of all time. So in most cases, the goat is letting us know that this is a time to begin new climbs and new endeavors. And you must also plan your course and take your time and also look closely at what is ahead so that you can be sure-footed along your path. Similar to the route, the mountain goat means it's letting us know that it's time to stretch ourselves. So the spirit animal is insisting that we actually reach out for new and higher goals. It's also, I think, another worldly perspective, getting to the top of the mountain, right? A mountain goat. But it's also letting us know that we have to trust our ability to land on our feet, having faith in ourselves, and also our skills, knowing that our skills alone are a very potent tool that's available to us at all the time. So similar to the seagull, and we need to move forward one step at a time. It's those baby steps. But the most compelling goat meaning or the message is that the sky is absolutely the limit. So just allow yourself to reach for those lofty goals. And the only one stopping us is literally ourselves. So we need to believe in our power and move forward with our life. So it's also a reminder sometimes of our inflated ego. So just make sure that you are not overcompensating for any underlying sense of worthlessness. You are worthy, you are enough, and actually spend more time on your own self-esteem issues if you have them. And also remember that you are a child of the universe and you are part of this divine paradox. So if you have the goat as a totem or a spirit animal, it's actually similar to the tiger. You're always persistent in achieving whatever goal that you wish to pursue. You're industrious. You have a strong work ethic. You're fearless when it comes to difficult obstacles in your path to success, the journey. You often have lofty spiritual ambition and enjoy exploring new heights within yourself. And you also have keen insight. You're spiritually inspired and you have a broad perspective on all the things. You can also be intensely stubborn, especially when it comes to schemes for generating wealth, prestige, and power. You believe you have the answer to everything. So these people are also adventurous. They love to explore new territory. People with the goat always have a backup plan, and they will have the resources to get to where they want to go as well. And they also seek to provide this type of support for the village, the people around them. If you dream of a goat wandering around a farm, say, that's a symbol of abundance and also wealth. And it also is a kind of denoting to be cautious in dealings and also, a steady increase of your wealth. If a billy goat butts you, which my neighbor actually had Billy the goat, just beware that some are seeking your downfall. If a young woman dreams that she drinks this mammal's milk, it symbolizes that she will marry money and will not be disappointed. So also it could be a warning. So don't turn your back on a potentially volatile situation with regards to your family and your relationships. If the animal is black in your dream, this symbolizes the death of one of your goals, only to be replaced by something far, far better. So when you see a baby or a kid in your goat dream, it signifies a new adventure that will actually take you to newer heights in your career. So I find that to be absolutely spectacular, right? Especially with the energy of today. And now, there we go. I went back to my fairy oracle. I don't know why. I like this deck, obviously, right? So, we have the fairy oracle. They're called fairy challengers. So what they do is they bring us face to face with our deepest fears, any inner denials, traumas, insecurities, anything like that. So this is Luthos the Wild. It's haste, it's impulsiveness, it's fire, it's spontaneity, and it's also balanced. So he is actually filled with fire, and fire is associated with our creative life force. So this fairy fires us up. He gets us going. He recharges our batteries and also our creative energies. So he likes to be around when things are exciting, when there is life force, things are blazing high. He likes to jump in. He likes to encourage things to burn even higher. Creation and passion, those are his motto. It's faster, faster, faster. So it's kind of like a waitress with a bunch of stacks of plates. She's serving breakfast. She's running past your table. She spins on her toes. She's got 2 pots of coffee. And she only pauses for a second on her toes, but she's balancing everything. And then she takes off to another table as people are kind of calling her to bring them the coffee. That's kind of his energy. So we really have to be careful with Luthus. He doesn't know the meaning of words like slow, stop, having a cat nap, rest, gradual, peace, gentle. So these are all the things we need to know in order to live creatively and also constructively with him. So anything else is actually fatal, and sooner or later it will probably fall to that. It's like the endings. So the fire of Luthus can be destructive as well as this creative rage, fury, or anger, and all parts of the fire element, actually. So fire burns as well as it energizes. You know, it's warming, but it's also can be spark. So think of a gentle warmth of a kitten sleeping. So it's in our fire where we can convert energy or melt to the bone and also to the muscle and also to the extravagant friskiness of a cat. So also it could be the flame of a candle lighting the path for people wandering on their way home, or it could also be the anger of a soul lashing out at others. Or it could also be the inferno of a forest fire. It's wild and it's overpowering. So creation and destruction are impossible really to separate. You really can't have one without the other. So it's this fire that burns. It creates the ash, which then acts as fertilizer for new growth, turns into earth. Could be the slopes of volcanoes. They're highly fertile. That's why people take the risk of living and farming near them. When I was in Italy, there was the volcanoes where the wineries were totally amazing. You could also think of the phoenix, the rise of the phoenix, where she lays her eggs. They burst into flames. That's how they become incubated. So it's birth, it's death, it's rebirth, or those are all the cycle of fire. It kind of feels like the energy of Pluto, even though it's fire. So Luthus speaks of burnout, blocked or even exhausted creative energy. He's suggesting that we need to find ways to kind of regenerate and recharge ourselves so we can continue the race, but at our own healthy pace, like not going too far. So he's suggesting that our fire is low and it needs to be replenished by appropriate activities before we can actually resolve the issues that we're actually dealing with that are set before us. So here he is actually reversed. So representing fire in its destructive mode, however grim or delightful that process might appear to be to you. So we need to remember that destruction is not always a bad thing. There are things that need to be destroyed, like injustice and cruelty, for example, in our world. But these things, they have to be handled with great care. We can't heal injustice with more injustice, and we can't also heal cruelty with additional cruelty. So if we wish to fight this twisted fire of cruelty, which is really passion gone sour or, out of its way, even insanity in a way, we need to find a different way to lovingly counter it with a fire of creativity and also compassion. So this fairy is eager to assist us with being this wonderful, creative, destructive fire, but we actually have to be careful with him. He's kind of at the epitome of this unbounded enthusiasm, and it can lead us to burnout, or it could take us to glory, success, a higher journey. So we must use his fire in an auspicious way, or he's going to take control and actually use us in the opposing direction, leaving nothing but a pile of ashes to blow away in the wind. So there we have him, and now it's called the nope, wrong one, sorry. Here we go, the Glackener. Dingo. This is another fairy challenger, and again, all the cards today are reversed. So this is illusion, delusion, lust, projection, and clear sight, vision. So have you ever noticed that when we are really, really, really wanting something or someone, we tend to see it without clarity, without clear vision? So the object of our lust might look flawless or even glamorous, glamoring us, which should actually tell us something right away. However, it usually doesn't. So within his name, it's Smooth Harry. He kind of goes with that tonality as well. That in itself is a little illusion of its own, similar to or unlike, there's another fairy called the Poke, but the Glackener doesn't change or shapeshift to tempt us with our own mental confusion and different paradoxes. He simply wears this mirror in which we can see our desires as these temptations that are displayed. He doesn't really try to fool us. He simply is allowing ourselves to fool ourselves. He might try a little bit just to make the test a little more difficult. He's a fairy challenger. You know, after all, we can be more proud of passing a difficult test than an easy one oftentimes, right? So Smooth Harry also appeals to our vanity, and the more we have of it, the easier his work actually is. So a little flattery, and we believe whatever he wants us to swallow, especially since it's just what we want to kind of swallow anyway. So of all the fairy challengers, Smooth Harry is literally the most likely to be sly like a fox. And he practices this sort of emotional kind of judo-jitsu where he lets our own desires kind of lead us into collapsing or falling down as we rush towards our vision of perfection. He just needs to like step aside and cast ourselves to him, and down we go, we fall. Not fun, but maybe, perhaps, we might just learn something from it. So this card is saying someone is pretending to be other than they really are. They might even believe, or at least want to believe, their own deceit, but probably not. So we have this pretense that it might be because they want to please others, because they lack the moral strength to present themselves and their ideas from integrity or honesty, or because they simply hope to gain an advantage by fooling others. So sometimes people fool themselves often into thinking that they're actually better than others. So in doing so, they believe it's all right for them to deceive. You know, even though that's invalid logic, it's not often uncommon. And vanity can be involved here, especially vanity based on something we know deep down into our beingness to be untrue, like false words, like unmeant apologies, you know, when you know the apology isn't really an apology, stuff like that. Or we might claim something means little to us when in fact it actually meant a great deal and we don't say anything. So the others involved in the situation really need to wake up and notice what is really happening instead of allowing themselves to be filled and full. So the situation needs to be handled with care, or this awakening will have this explicit destructive effect. So it's the pretender. It's if the person is questioning like the other world in a way, they urgently need to begin to present their true self, their true ideas before things get worse, the authenticity, because they will, and then crisis that happens on the other side becomes more devastating. So this is really a time to call up on our own honesty, our own integrity for assistance. That's kind of the message of this little character, mostly because he's reversed. Then I have, card is part of what's called the Helpline Troop. So it's like these group of helpers. They're like the wee folk of fairies. They're large or small, who sometimes assist us in our daily lives. Sometimes they add more than a little confusion, usually in an effort to be helpful. So these fairies are associated with the 5 elements. So earth, air, water, fire, and even like the moonlight, the galactic corridor. And some of them work by themselves and others work in groups. But they are all full of life. They're fun. They're generally sassy. They're full of joy, sometimes mischievous. They're often the ones who we think of when we think of like pixies or brownies. I was thinking of Maleficent, the three fairies that are taking care of the daughter. Oh my gosh, can't remember her name, but you know who I'm thinking of, right? So these fairies kind of ask me to remind you to hear that, while they're also willing to meet us anywhere. Particularly, they like to play with us out in nature, in the natural world, and practicing just natural magic. Fairies are generally rational. They're poetic. Sometimes they're observed, but they're very, very wise too. So this card, it's called the Rar. So it's this wild energy. It's pure potential energy. They're not naughty or wicked. They're just energy. They're like the full force of it. But they're also not very discriminating. They like to join into whatever excitement is happening around them and actually add energy to it. So in a way, they're literally pure potential. They're potent pure potential. And they add that to whatever's happening. They're attracted to mobs and rioting, and also, though, to meditation groups that are rising or heading towards ecstasy, and to any other like strong, elevated, energetic states. They bounce around, they zoom in, they often like to go off on tangents. So again, think of like when a cat is purring. They've got that hum, that sound, that happy sound. They don't really discriminate. It's kind of up to us. We do that to ourselves. But this fairy puts life spark into whatever is happening, but it's our choice into what we're going to do with it. But being that this card is upside down, that's an indication of a problem or a situation. Both are like the question and the rar, you know, are we losing, or have we lost control? Or things happening, thrashing about in midair? So fairy glamour and fairy zaps, little zings, they're kind of running wild, and illusions and delusions are everywhere. Misunderstandings are kind of escalating. So take a cold shower. That's definitely in order. So the call really is to practice grounding exercises, meditate, kind of back off and look at things with otherworldly eyes, add some calmness, some clarity, some coolness. So that might be just enough to do it, but just try it. And also with these cards, you know, there are generative forces and degenerative forces. So one might think or believe that a degenerative force is bad, but that's not so. It's really all about balance. So it's like too much of a good thing can lose its juice. And if you scale too far off in one direction, you know, the tower does fall down. So it's honestly about balance. So really connect through your heart channel today. Definitely meditate. Bring your emotions online as well. And literally watch the door open to those unlimited possibilities, new, impossible, otherworldly kinds of relationships. Take in your own otherworldly history, you know, subscribe to your own belief structure, your own belief channel, believe in yourself and also your future self, more importantly. You could bring in the seed sound of the third eye, which I prefer the sound of silence. The sound of water, or also wood. It's the whoo of blowing out a candle. I have all these in the show notes. The whoo of blowing out a candle or shushing a child. You know, you could do both, kind of alternate. And an affirmation, it would be something like, I am opening the door to a new sound system of otherworldly beliefs, like shifting gears, right? So with all of that, thanks for tuning in. And as always, InShalla, Ashe, make it a divine blessing day. And I will see you tomorrow.